The thing about the film Reptile that I really respected was that there was a feeling of unease in almost every scene and in definitely every character. These are like ill-defined people, and we're not sure if we can trust any of them.
A young woman is brutally murdered in a small town, casting doubts upon its high-profile residents and the detective charged with solving the case in Reptile.
Starts out as you think it's just going to be a simple murder mystery whodunit, where the police are working, trying to find out who the killer is. There's multiple suspects. You know, is it the current boyfriend? Is it the ex-husband? Is it the weirdo that was across the street? They just keep on adding twist after twist, more plot, more plot. It's got this surplus of plot. So for me, who I love plot in films, um, I kept being more surprised that they're like, oh, they're adding this, they're adding that. Benicio del Toro is fantastic. All the acting is great. Really strong, interesting directing, and it in the end, I was I was right about who the killer was, or at least who was in on it, and then I was totally wrong about everything else, um, which I loved because I want to, I don't want to know who the killer is right off the bat. Although sometimes that can be really well done, and then it's cat and mouse between the detective and the killer.
I also like this movie, and it was one of those movies where we were looking for something to watch on Netflix,
Hmm.
and I just saw the image, and then I looked at what it was it what is the plot synopsis or whatever. But the reason why we gave it a watch was because of the cast list. This movie has a good cast.
Yeah.
Um, So that's really why, oh, we'll give it a shot. And if we don't like it, we'll just watch something else, right? And it ended up being quite entertaining and a really good vehicle, I thought, for Del Toro, which I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't expecting, really. So kind of one of those underrated gems, kind of a pleasant surprise that you get on streaming because you have no idea, right? It's not some, big movie. And I don't think, from what I see, this movie was produced by Netflix for Netflix. But one reason I feel like this movie may have fallen under the radar, and I guess, for streaming movies that could happen often, right? Unless it's the movie they're giving a big push that week or something. I think it could have fallen under the radar because of the title. Um, it's not, I don't know if it's the greatest title for a movie like this or for a crime thriller. Reptile kind of sounds like Reptile sounds like a knockoff, some cheap knockoff of Venom or something, right?
Or maybe Reptile. Oh, it's about a serial killer who's got the reptile brain, and it's
mm,
no, it's just about a or seemingly simple, brutal murder of a realtor in a house that she's going to sell. Um,
right. It just I'm not sure that it was the greatest choice.
for
Uh,
title.
but I mean, the movie itself, like you were saying, I it is a crime thriller, murder mystery,
Mm-hmm.
and so it kept our attention that way. And like I was saying, great cast. And I thought that maybe you would also appreciate that one of the supporting players is Michael Pitt, who I haven't seen in anything in a long time. I'm not sure that people would even remember him now, but he was kind of up and coming, right? He's got to be. He was in that movie with Sandra Bullock and Ryan Gosling, where the two men were trying to pull off the perfect
Or
crime,
two,
right?
two. I think they were like high school students.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's got to be like similar age with Gosling, right? But Pitt's fallen by the wayside,
Well, he
so
was
to
he was
speak, these
in he was
days.
in that
He's in
HBO
Boardwalk
show
Empire,
Boardwalk
right?
Empire. Yeah.
And they killed him off because he was difficult to work with, or so they say.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Uh, but since then, he's just kind of vanished, I feel like. So to see him in this movie, not as
He
the lead, but just kind of a supporting player, was kind of a nice
Yeah,
surprise.
he was great. He's the weirdo across the street. Um and he's
He does it
he's
well.
he does it really well. And there's a scene where like the cops, it's the scene where the cops go to like, okay, well, let's go check out this suspect, and they go to his house, and he's acting very strange and evasive, but then something like switches, and he talks to Del Toro, and he's like, "Hey, do you know both of us have the same birth date?" And it's like, "Oh, okay. Why would you?" So you've been researching the homicide detectives on this murder, and you knew and had a grudge against the boyfriend of the murdered woman, and you're researching the police, and it just makes him look so guilty. And I remember like leaning in, I'm like, "Oh, what?" And the cops were like, "Oh, really? Oh, we have the same birthday. That's interesting." um and it's it's one of the reasons why I found the movie so okay. Like, the movie is a little slowly paced. I would say deliberate, but I think a lot of people maybe would think this movie was boring. It's not. There's not enough action. They kind of linger on scenes and character moments, as opposed to just, oh, go to the next thing, go to the next thing. um but it's every
Yeah, I didn't
single.
think it was boring.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah,
Every single
bit
character in the
slow
movie.
burn.
Slow burn. Yeah, every single
Mm.
character in the movie is a suspect in a way. Even Benicio del Toro's character, the homicide detective, you're half like in the, I don't know, first hour, I was like, is this the kind of movie where the homicide detective is actually the killer and he has to investigate and pin the murder on someone else? um just because you couldn't trust any of the characters. Is Alicia Silverstone plays Benicio del Toro's wife, and they have a great relationship, but she's kind of flirting with their contractor who's redoing their kitchen. And it's like, can we trust her? I'm definitely a see it on this movie. I was scrolling through Netflix one night just like you, and I saw it, and I was like, oh, I remember seeing that preview a few years ago or a couple years ago, and I thought it might look good, so I'll watch it, and sat down and loved it.
If you're like me, if you just saw it on Netflix, you just saw a picture and then you saw, the cast, you wouldn't know necessarily that it was this crime thriller, you know. So not a lot to go on, but turned out worthwhile. So I'm also a see it or try it.
Yep.
See it.
And so the director and one of the writers, Grant Singer, he's like a prolific music video director. I found his direction strong. Like, someone should give him another $5-10 million to do another movie, because he uses almost every single trick in the director's book. Um, and some of them work fantastic. Some of them don't work. Um, I would say this is a very good movie, not a great movie. Um, but some of the acting is great. Getting into spoiler territory, I suspected the boyfriend, Justin Timberlake, right off the bat. Um, and then there's this scene where Justin Timberlake shoots and kills Benicio del Toro, but it's a nightmare. But Benicio del Toro's character wakes up, the detective, and he's like, okay, now I know my subconscious was trying to tell me, but now I'm sure that he was definitely in on the murder, but he was only one part of it. And how the movie, this one murder opens up to this other giant police corruption scandal, I just found fascinating, and I was so glad I got to see this movie. I got to see this movie. I was just like, this is a great movie, or this is a really good movie, and I'm so glad I got to see it. But yes, I definitely recommend. What did you think about that sequence? The dream, the nightmare sequence.
So I thought that dream was a good way of reminding us that, like you were saying, everyone's a suspect, but also
Mm-hmm.
because at that point I think Timberlake had kind of moved into the background a bit. And I think, I don't know if you'd agree, but they cast him as that character in a way because he has this popular image, right, in real life
Yeah.
of kind of like a Tom Hanks squeaky clean kind of image, right? And
Yeah.
to this day, I don't know if he's played any other bad guys. I don't know if you know that. Do you?
I don't.
So
Yeah,
it's
I don't think
almost
so. This
like
may have
they
been.
cast him kind of to throw you off the scent in a way, I think. Or maybe they cast
Yeah.
him because he had a desire to play a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Either way, it works because I think in real life, everyone knows, right? If somebody's murdered, they're gonna take a hard look, especially if it's a woman. They're gonna take a hard look at her partner.
Yep.
So immediately, our suspicion's gonna be on him. Um, and I think as the movie goes, it does shift a little, towards Michael Pitt and these other characters. So I
And
think,
the ex husband.
yeah, I think it
Yeah.
did a good job of handling, you know, the um, the red herrings and whatnot, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with the ending, with this conspiracy, the police conspiracy, it reminded me a little bit of Copland. Do you remember that?
Yep. Yep.
And also, then in that way, it kind of feels like a modern Western movie, right? That, Benicio del Toro's the new sheriff's deputy or whatever, brought into this
Right.
small town, this seemingly good small town, but there's a lot of corruption and bad things happening uh, beneath the
Yeah, maybe a
surface.
little like Silverado, right?
Hmm.
Kevin Kline gets brought in by his good friend Brian Dennehy, who's the sheriff of Silverado,
Yeah.
and then it turns out, oh, Brian Dennehy is actually he's the main villain.
Uh,
I would say the violence in the movie when it happens is incredibly brutal but short. Um, there's two gunfights in this movie, and you don't expect either of them. Um, it's not like the sequence where the main character is loading his guns and getting ready for this fight. These two gunfights happen out of nowhere. You don't expect them, especially the first one and the second one. Really, you don't expect it. Um, it feels real, and God, yeah, just the director, this guy, Grant Singer, he did a great job. He got all those actors to just really be great. And I think
Mhm.
Benicio del Toro has a writing credit on this movie as
Mhm.
well.
It's the kind of movie it's the kind of movie that's like it's a solid debut for a first-time director, right?
Hmm.
I don't
Hmm.
know. It used to be that a lot of directors cut their teeth on music videos and then they got their shot, right, to make a movie like
Right.
David Fincher.
Fincher, sure.
Um, but then with the Marvel era, they kind of veered towards, well, we're gonna find someone who just made indie movies, and we're gonna
Yep.
graduate them or whatever to a big budget
Hmm.
tentpole. So this movie is kind of a throwback in a way to, taking a music video director, giving him a shot. And so I think it's a solid debut. And like we said, it's not a great movie, but it's solid, and it could be, the a good stepping stone to what's next for this.
It's it's almost a great movie. It's almost great. It's really good. And just watch it. Just watch it. Do yourself a favor. And you know who was also really good? I mentioned her once. Alicia Silverstone is great as the wife.
Yeah, and
I
she's
love, I love. So like, he comes home and she has a job, but she's a cop's wife. She's been a detective's wife for a long time, and he says, "Oh, I'm working on that murder because this is like a smaller town. Like the police department has, I don't know what, 40 people in it, and she already kind of knows, and she starts giving him statistics like, well, it's most of the time it's the boyfriend or the husband, and he's like, yeah, we're looking into it. And there's even a scene where the murder victim had a, a bite wound on her hand, and Benicio del Toro is like, let me take your hand to his wife, and he bites it, and she's like, no, 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 it would probably happen like this. And I just love that they're working together, because it's just natural, a husband, wife, the wife or the husband has something in their job, and it's like, okay, let me see if I can help you. Um, but then it makes her even a little suspicious, because why does she know so much? And the reason why she knows so much is because she's been married to a detective for 10 years. Um,
we
just
saw
great.
we saw some other movie recently with her in it. I couldn't tell you what it was now, but
Yeah.
she was not the star, and
Yeah.
she was in the mother role to, some 20-something-year-old actress
Mm-hmm.
now. So it's just a reminder of like, we're getting so old.
We're so old.
Right? She used
Was
to
she
be,
good?
she
Was she
was,
good, or was she just okay in it?
I don't remember, but she was, Hollywood's, she was the ingenue, right? The
She
starlet, and
was.
now she's the
Yeah.
mother. And one day she'll be the grandmother. But
Yeah.
it's,
I
uh,
wonder if Benicio del Toro just gained weight, or if he gained weight for the movie.
all right, that was Reptile. We say you should check it out on
Definitely.
Netflix. Thanks for watching.